You are watching Pausing with Erik. We pause for a second or two. How do we keep life coherent when so much is changing? This is episode 295, Oil Conflict. For the last 2 months, we have all been following the developments down in the Middle East. And especially, we've been following the developments in what is called the Strait of Hormuz. So, in this strait, I think it's about 20% of the total supply of crude oil is being shipped. So for the last 2 months, this strait has been more or less closed off. So today we are pausing and taking a second or two to contemplate what this means. What is oil? What is oil about? What does oil or crude oil mean to us? And how do we seem to react instinctively to this sort of conflict about oil? This is today's subject. We get some help from this wood cube authority. Authority is our acute goal. So it's our goal for our acute situation. And our acute situation is for those times when we feel startled, caught off guard, or when we are suddenly approached by someone or something. So it's for when we are sort of taken aback and we sort of lose our footing for a second. And authority is our goal for those times when we lose our footing, when we lose control temporarily. That's when authority is what we want. This is the image or symbol for authority. 2 outlined figures, 2 men. One of them numbered number 1 and the other numbered number 2. So authority in such an acute split-second kind of situation, or sort of drastic situation, we get very sort of focused on determining who of us, you and me, or you and I and another party, who is number 1 and who is number 2. Sort of the hierarchy, the relative hierarchy between us. That's what we feel or know is most important to determine in such a drastic, sudden situation. And authority as a goal, as a pausing kind of goal, is how we go about this. We pause and work towards a solid sense of judging relative authorities. Authority is how we accept our real size. So here we see that we have a few terms that we make use of. So let's write them down. We want to work towards a solid sense. A solid sense of judging. So judging. And judging what? Relative authorities. And on this side, authority is how we accept. So acceptance. And the last term, our real size. Real size. So these 5 terms are sort of our guiding principles, leading us towards some sort of blueprint to at least some sort of initial mindset for how to deal with acute situations and how to sort of relate to authority. So I guess you could say that these two are related to each other. Our relative authorities and our real size. They are sort of the what we are looking for. And these two, judging and acceptance, these are the two sort of verbs, our actions, what we're doing. And then the solid sense is sort of what we're looking for. That's what we want. That's how we sort of know that we are doing it right. Once we feel a solid sense of these 4, then we are sort of okay, kind of on the right track here. So it would seem now, in this sort of oil conflict, that questions of authority is sort of being made more acute. There is this sort of drastic feeling in the air. And it would seem that oil, and more specifically crude oil, I think crude oil is a difficult thing to pause with. I think crude oil is a difficult thing to accept for what it is. Or at least it would seem like crude oil is a difficult thing to accept if we just look at how we are reacting to this conflict about it. We get stressed about crude oil. So there is a lot that could be said about what crude oil is, both as a sort of a resource, but also the sort of real effects that crude oil has on our lives. So crude oil comes from beneath, comes from the earth. It's jet black. It's very overwhelming crude oil. It has this thick, adhesive, sort of sticky quality to it. We all know sort of the imagery of birds and animals being caught in crude oil, and it's practically the end for them. So crude oil has this sort of strange dual nature that it's filled, on the one hand, it's filled with energy. It's sort of raw energy. Just one spark, a small flame, and it explodes, or it combusts very violently. So it's packed with energy. So it's very full of life. But at the same time, it has the potential to sort of put an end to a lot of things. It has this sort of overwhelming quality. Its color, its shape, its smell. And it's a very profound thing that it comes from the ground. So it's a natural thing. It's an overwhelming natural resource that just seeps up from the ground or comes up from the ground. I think there is a very strong symbolism in crude oil. And I think that the very nature of crude oil and how it looks and feels to us in itself makes it very difficult to accept just at face value. So on a personal level, just us and the crude oil in itself, just on that level, it can be difficult to judge the authorities, the relative authorities between us and the oil. As a human or as a living being relating to the oil, what really is my real size? If I try to judge, what is actually my real size in relation to this crude oil? It's not that easy to tell or to distinguish. And that's just the oil in itself, just as a natural phenomenon. Then, after that, we come to all the social aspects of crude oil. That it's not only between me and the crude oil, it's between me and you and everybody else and the crude oil. So it would seem now, this is at least my impression from looking at sort of the social dynamics going on right now for these last 2 months. It would seem that people are, to quite a large extent, rearranging how they sort of position themselves socially now when crude oil is in conflict. Could be that a person who usually wants to stand in one social position or stand alone now wants to move closer to a group of people. It has this sort of oil conflict has this sort of very real anxious feeling about it. We can feel, oh, I should move more in this direction. I should move closer to these people. I should move away from this position. I should move away from these people. It seems that oil has the potential to move people and people's intentions socially. So it would seem that the relative authorities, the real sizes, are sort of changing in all sorts of places all at once. Some groups grow stronger now, other groups weaken. So this solid sense that we work towards as our acute goal authority, this solid sense is not really something we will achieve fully. It's more of an ideal. It's something we wish to sort of look for. We want a solid sense of judging the relative authorities. And we want a solid sense of acceptance about our real size. Not trying to make ourselves bigger or smaller than we really are, but be what we are. But this is a difficult thing to pause with. There is a real politic in this. Crude oil affects everything in our economy. It affects production, it affects trade, it affects money, currencies, it affects diplomacy, it affects peace and war. Very difficult to pause with. It would seem that we need to sort of take our time to organize our thoughts and feelings about all the multitude of effects that this oil conflict has. And for some groups, the time is not on their side. And for other groups, there is still a sense of time, but like the clock is ticking. There is this sort of ticking clock feeling in the air. It's very scary. And that it would seem that not all people think about crude oil in their everyday life, but now most people do. So it would seem that crude oil is sort of what we are all sort of joined by for the moment. And in conclusion, that crude oil is a natural resource. It comes from the ground. It's a real thing. It's a natural thing. And that is very powerful, that we are all sort of gathered around something natural and immensely powerful, full of energy. That's it for today. Thank you.